I totally crashed my best friend's wedding. First, let me start with how my husband and I met. We were college sweethearts and got married. Then we had a daughter, and I went on maternity leave. One day, as I was putting our 4-month-old daughter to sleep, it happened. Hey, listen, I actually have someone I like. What? What are you talking about? I'm sorry. But I'm serious. So, I want us to break up. Wait a minute. Our daughter was just born. She can't even hold her head up yet. And you're talking about divorce? How long has this been going on? And who is she? It's been about 6 months since we started that kind of relationship. That kind of relationship? You mean it wasn't like that before? Wait, who is she? Nina. Wait a minute. You're kidding. Nina? Nina as in my Nina? This Nina was my best friend since high school. I moved to New York for college. Nina stayed back in Nebraska and got a job but would visit me sometimes, and I had introduced her to my husband. I wish I could tell my past self not to introduce them. Why Nina, of all people? Well, you kicked me out of the house because you were having such bad morning sickness. I had terrible morning sickness during my pregnancy. I couldn't stand the smell of food or my husband's scent, just smelling them made me nauseous, and I couldn't cook at all. But I vividly remember feeling so grateful and guilty when my husband, seeing my condition, decided to eat out instead. However, that kindness turned out to be a complete lie. Just by chance, I met Nina then, and since you were at home, she hung out with me to kill time. This happened a few times, and before I knew it, things changed between us. So, you're partly to blame, aren't you? Are you serious? Saying that? Of course, I was furious with my husband, but I had shared my morning sickness woes with Nina, so she knew my situation. Yet, she continued her affair with my husband. Plus, I can't see you as a woman anymore. You've ballooned up, from the back, you look like a walrus. If only you had stayed slim like before. You just laze around because you're off work, and that's why you never lose weight. I prefer slim women. Nina has been thoughtful towards me since the first day we met. She has been consistent in her feelings for me all this time. There's no one else as devoted as she is. Hold on. So you just fell for her, just like that? Besides, I'm still on maternity leave and can't go back to work yet, not to mention I can't just get a divorce. Think about our daughter. You're her father, aren't you? We'll figure something out. I'll pay alimony and whatever child support you ask for. Please, let's get a divorce. The conversation ended as our daughter woke up crying, and I spent the night awake until morning. The next morning, I called my parents without thinking straight and had my mother pick me up, and the two of us went back to their place. My parents' home was in the countryside, surrounded by nothing but fields and mountains, leaving me to overthink everything. Seeing my distraught state, the lawyer hired by my husband and my parents were moving forward with the talks. My parents were furious, telling me, "Get rid of that husband immediately. You can stay with us from now on." By then, I didn't care about anything anymore, I just wanted it all to be over. Eventually, my husband and I officially divorced. I wanted nothing to do with him anymore, so I demanded the child support in a lump sum. I also completely denied him any visitation rights with our daughter. I decided to raise her as if her father was dead. After all, he was dead to me, and that wasn't a lie, was it? Since my husband made a decent income, I managed to get double the usual amount for alimony, and also demanded a fair amount from Nina. With that, the matter was settled, and I officially became a single mother. Having moved back to my parents, I left my old job. I thought about starting something new, but it's all fields and mountains as far as the eye can see in the countryside. Even the nearest convenience store is a 30-minute drive away. Feeling left behind here with my daughter, I couldn't muster the energy to do anything. Since the divorce was settled, I couldn't even tell the taste of my meals, felt no joy in my daughter's growth, and was a disgrace of a mother, especially since she was about to turn 1 year old. Life felt void of purpose, as if time had stopped, and the days were empty and long. But after successfully divorcing that worthless husband, a person reached out to me while I was still feeling gloomy and shut away. One morning, while having breakfast, my dad said, "Hey, could you help me out with work today? One of my buddies got injured. It's hard to manage alone. It's just carrying some light stuff, so please help me out." I think he was just trying to show he cared in his own way. I hadn't been outside in a while, but I didn't want to waste his concern, so I decided to give it a try. By the way, my father's job is called a forester, which involves protecting the mountain ecosystem. Planting seedlings, removing weeds and other plants that hinder the trees, cutting down vigorously growing bamboo. It's physically demanding work, but staying home wasn't changing anything, so I decided to help out. I was admittedly shocked when I had to change into the work clothes Dad gave me. I had gained over 22 pounds since giving birth, and only the largest size would fit. Remembering the word walrus my husband used to call me made me nearly cry, but somehow I managed to squeeze into the loose clothing and stepped out into the outside world after a long time. Honestly, I had underestimated the job of a forester's assistant. We trekked paths that weren't paths, climbed mountains with only the front spikes of our shoes for grip. What usually took an hour and a half took us more than double that time. And of course, the way back took just as long. Every part of my body screamed in pain. But the meal I had when I got back was the most unforgettable one of my life. I hadn't shed a single tear when my husband confessed to cheating or even when we divorced, but I cried buckets while eating that meal. And though my body was sore everywhere, strangely, I wasn't tired. I can't remember the last time a bath felt so good. It was genuinely worth it in the end. And so, I asked to apprentice under my father. Seeing that flabby belly would embarrass anyone, but now I understood why my husband called me a walrus. I don't ever want to see him again, nor do I want to prove anything to him, but ending up as an overweight woman still felt disappointing. But then, things changed. I had started to get the hang of my father's work and was beginning to enjoy being a forester. Since it's manual labor, female foresters are quite rare, and a local TV station contacted us for an interview. And, surprise, I ran into my high school boyfriend during the interview. Talking about old times, I remember this ex was stolen from me by Nina. It seems I had blocked out that painful part of my life. I don't feel anything for him now, but Nina always did have a thing for taking what was someone else's. I remember feeling more annoyed than angry. Nina always seemed to fancy my boyfriends, and she would mimic everything I did. So, when my ex-husband mentioned Nina, I thought, not again. I learned then that Nina had made the first move, but he dumped her shortly after they got together. Really, she's always been self-centered and moody, a real genius at making everyone else miserable. But after reuniting with my ex, we've seen each other a few times because of the interview, and I've been told there's a plan to feature me in an upcoming special. It's a bit embarrassing, but I haven't felt this fulfilled in forever. I can hardly believe I'm the same person who used to shut herself away at home. Now, as a single mother, it would be nice if my daughter could see this when she grows up, so I've decided to participate in the documentary. While we were having dinner, the phone rang at my parents' house. My mom answered the phone, but the moment she heard the voice on the other line, her face went pale. "Karen, come here for a second." "What's wrong?" "Who is it?" "It's Nina from high school." It was Nina on the phone. Looking at my parents, who seemed worried for me, I had a bad feeling and told them I'd call her back from my phone. I just felt like I couldn't talk in front of them, you know? So, I set my phone to private and called Nina back. "Hello? What's the deal, calling all the way to my parents' house?" "Hey, long time no talk. I'm finally getting married to your ex-husband." "Oh, is that so? I was thinking it'd be mean not to invite you to the wedding." "Oh, but maybe a fat seal like you would be too embarrassed to show up, right? You can't come, can you?" Upon hearing this, I saw it as the perfect chance to show up my husband and Nina, so I decided to accept the invitation. "Really? I can come? Count me in." "Really? I thought you'd be too miserable to show up." "Not at all. It's a happy occasion, after all. I'd love to come." Are you inviting other folks from our hometown too?
Yeah.
That's the plan. Great. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone after such a long time. Nina probably thinks this. By inviting me, she wants to make me feel miserable, showing me off as the sad woman who was dumped by her husband for her best friend. And she, looking stunning in her bridal gown, wants to flaunt how she's better than me. But I seem to be taking things surprisingly well, which seems to have thrown her off. Is it really that fun to mock people? I've been more grounded lately, gaining a bit of confidence in myself, so I decided to take on Nina's challenge, thinking I'm not going to be miserable over this. But I'm definitely not bringing my daughter. I have no intention of letting her see my ex-husband ever again. Okay, totally fine. The date is... I noted down the date and venue of the wedding before hanging up. The reason I could handle Nina's provocation so calmly is that I've been getting healthier and losing weight since training with my father. I look better than ever before, not just post-pregnancy, but even better than in college, with a nice amount of muscle, though I say it myself. I'm a bit tanned, but I think it adds to a healthier, more vibrant look. Since my work got really busy, I started sending my daughter to daycare. There, even the younger moms have been complimenting me, making me feel like I've finally become a mom my daughter can be proud of. I can't wait to show my ex-husband that the seal he used to mock is gone. I was worried about making it to the wedding because of a last-minute assignment, but I made it. An invitation had also been sent to my ex-boyfriend who works at a TV station, so we went to the venue together. I didn't have time to shop for an outfit, so I wore a black suit handed down from my mother. It's a small town, so I heard that most of my local friends would be attending, which made me excited to show them my new, slimmer self. Nina had asked to meet before the wedding, so I headed to the dressing room. Karen! I'm so glad you came. Huh? Have you lost weight? You look nothing like the pictures I saw with your husband. What, did you go on a diet? Nina stared at me, clearly thrown off. Not really a diet, I've been working with my dad as a minor, it's pretty heavy work, and I just ended up losing weight. Actually, I'm being featured in a TV special today about beautiful minors. I couldn't help but brag a little. Seeing my transformed appearance, Nina started to get flustered. By the way, where's your husband? He's out greeting guests. But, hey, Karen. Turns out, due to some mistake, there's no seat for you at the reception. I'm terribly sorry, but could you just leave the wedding gift and go? Nina had intended to make fun of me, but her plan backfired. What? I came all this way, and now you're telling me to leave? Just go. I don't want my husband to see you like this. What was all that confidence over the phone about, anyway? He always talks about you, even after marrying me. If she hadn't been fat, I wouldn't have left her, he says. I invited you thinking you'd still be fat and he'd finally get over you, but look at you now. It's so annoying. I'm supposed to be the cute one, but why do you always seem happier? It's so irritating. Even back in high school, I stole your boyfriend, and now your husband, yet you show up to the wedding. Don't you realize I've always hated you? And yet, because of you, I'm always second best. With you around, I can never be truly happy. Since you're not fat anymore, I can't let my husband see you. Just leave the gift and go. Then she called the wedding staff to kick me out of the room. I had a hunch it would go something like this. Told to leave, I couldn't just slink away, so I waited outside, planning my next move. When I received a certain phone call, I took it as my cue to enter the reception hall and walk straight up to the newlyweds. The host was shocked by my sudden appearance. Nina's previously joyful expression clouded over instantly. Approaching the stage, near the main table, I caught the eye of my evidently intoxicated ex-husband. Then he blurted out, "Karen. You actually came. I thought you wouldn't since I hadn't seen you. And you've become so beautiful. You must still not be over me." Hey. What are you saying? My ex-husband seemed to have had quite a bit to drink, his cheeks flushed red and his words slurring. The way my ex-husband looked at me was clearly different from just before our divorce, his eyes filled with the joy of someone who has found something they lost. It was the look he had back in college, when he had feelings for me. I just can't forget you. I can't stand seeing you become more beautiful without me around. Give me another chance, and I'll make sure you and our daughter are happy, he declared. I was dumbfounded. I was furious with myself for ever having loved such a man. And the person most surprised to see me there was Nina, the bride standing next to him. Her eyes wide open, her expression saying, this wasn't supposed to happen. In fact, before Nina invited me to the wedding, I had received an anonymous call and a message from my ex-husband wanting to meet again. He had seen an article about me and said he had fallen for me all over again, wanted to reconcile, and wished to see our daughter. I had no intention of remarrying him and ignored him, but he kept contacting me persistently. My appearance at the wedding seemed to have led him to believe that I wished to reconcile. There's no way I would get back together with you. I came here today to celebrate your marriage and to ask that you and your new wife never contact me or my daughter again. And Nina, it's really awful, isn't it? After all, you married a man who was once my husband, having already stolen all my boyfriends in the past. Seems like just desserts, doesn't it? Best of luck with him. After I spoke, the relatives and other guests were shaken, and the venue started buzzing. What are you talking about? I would never do such a thing. Nina desperately denied. That's when I signaled my ex-boyfriend. Suddenly, a recording played throughout the venue. It was the conversation between Nina and me in the dressing room. You look so pretty. It's so irritating. I stole your boyfriend, and now your husband. Don't you realize I've always hated you? Just leave the gift and go. As the recording played, Nina's face went from flushed to pale. No! That's not true. Why is it always me? I loved him more than anyone. Why won't anyone see that? She screamed. But Nina was spectacularly ignored by my ex-husband. Wait, please, let's talk, he pleaded, grabbing my shoulder. I felt his touch and instantly recoiled, slapping him across the face. The force of it sent him tumbling to the floor. I left the venue, leaving my astonished ex-husband on the ground behind me. Later, I heard from a classmate at the venue that the wedding was indeed called off. Apparently, my quite intoxicated ex-husband had sobered up somewhat but stood there dazed. He seemed unaware of the enraged relatives around him. And Nina was in a state of chaos, breaking things in the venue and being restrained by the staff. Nina's parents were profusely apologizing to the guests. It's hard to believe this all really happened. This is the story of a woman who wrecked her best friend's wedding after being betrayed. I'm even surprised at myself. How action-oriented I had become. And who was my ally in this? Actually, my ex-boyfriend had left his microphone on when he entered the dressing room to talk to Nina, so he overheard everything. He came back to retrieve the mic and told me about the conversation, which we then used to our advantage. The voiceover at the wedding was done by a classmate who worked there, someone who Nina had bullied in school. She was more than happy to help after I told her everything. Nina had always treated people terribly, and it came back to haunt her. Her actions had led to this well-deserved outcome. Of course, Nina and my ex-husband's marriage was called off. I blocked all further contact from him and changed my number. It was a good thing I demanded a lump sum for child support and alimony during our divorce. I never want to see that man again. As for Nina, she couldn't return to her hometown and moved away with her family to an island where some relatives lived. As for me, things are looking up in my career. I'm about to take over my father's business. Being featured in the media has brought in new job offers, and I'm planning to expand the staff. It seems I'll be able to grow the family business and do my filial duty, as well as provide a stable environment for my daughter as a single mother.